The first thing I noticed was the closet. Not that it was empty, just wrong. The hangers were all facing the same direction, like a hotel room someone had cleaned too carefully. My clothes were gone, but the plastic hangers remained, spaced evenly across the rod. Someone had taken time with that. My desk was cleared. The mattress looked flatter without the blanket I'd used for years. For a moment I thought maybe they were repainting the room. Then I heard my mother behind me. "You can stop standing there," she said. "Your job is done." Her voice wasn't angry. It had the calm tone she used when talking to customer service representatives. I turned around slowly. "What do you mean?" She crossed her arms. "Your sister's tuition is paid. That was the agreement." Agreement. I had never heard the word used before. "I lived here," I said. "You lived here," she corrected. The glass came a second later. It wasn't thrown with much force, but it shattered against the wall beside my shoulder. The fragments slid down the paint and scattered across the floor. "Don't make this dramatic," she said. "Just take your things and go." The strange part is that there were no things left to take. A few months earlier, I'd been working double shifts. The number 5000 had lived in my head like a timer. My sister had gotten into a university she was excited about. My parents talked about it constantly, how proud they were, how important it was, how the family needed to support her future. They never directly asked me for money. They just talked about the tuition bill at dinner, every night, until silence felt heavier than volunteering. So I worked. Extra shifts, weekends, skipped lunches. When I transferred the money, my mother hugged me briefly in the kitchen. "You're doing the right thing," she said. That was the only acknowledgement. After that, everything in the house went back to normal. Until the night I found my room empty. 2. I slept on a coworker's couch for the first week. Not because I had nowhere else to go, I could afford a small place, but because my brain kept trying to understand what had happened. Families fight. Families say terrible things. But eviction without warning felt procedural, like a task someone had planned. After a few days, something else started to sink in. No one called. Not my mother. Not my sister. Even my father, who usually texted random reminders about oil changes or bills, stayed silent. It wasn't anger, it was absence. The kind that makes you realize your role had been functional, not personal. 3 weeks later, I signed a lease on a tiny studio. It had one window facing a parking lot and a refrigerator that hummed like an old generator. But for the first time in years, I noticed something strange about my paycheck. It stayed mine. The money that used to disappear into family expenses just sat in my account. At first that felt wrong. Like I'd forgotten to pay something important. Eventually the feeling changed. Not into happiness, just quiet. 2. The first call from my father came on a Tuesday night. I let it ring. He called again the next morning. And again that evening. By the 5th call, curiosity won. "Hello." His voice came out fast and uneven. "Where have you been?" I almost laughed. "I've been living somewhere else," I said. "Well, we've been trying to reach you." I didn't respond to that. There was a pause, then papers rustling on his end. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice. "There's a problem with your sister's tuition." The words hung there. Apparently the 5,000 I paid had only covered the first installment. There were additional fees, housing adjustments, administrative charges, things buried deep in the paperwork. My father sounded like someone who had opened a door and found a staircase he didn't know existed. "They're saying the next payment is due soon," he said. "And we can't figure out how they calculated all this." I leaned back against my kitchen counter. For the first time since leaving, I pictured the house again. The kitchen table, the stack of mail my father never opened until something was overdue. "You used to handle these things," he said. "Used to." There was a long silence. "Can you come by and take a look?" he asked. Not an apology, not an explanation, just a request for the role to resume. I stared out my window at the parking lot. A stray cat crossed between two cars, pausing halfway like it wasn't sure where it belonged. I don't live there anymore, I said. Yes, but this is your sister's future. I let that sentence settle. It used to work on me. Guilt had been the family language. But distance does something strange to obligation. It gives you time to hear the assumptions hiding inside requests. I already helped, I said. That was just the first payment. Another pause. I realized something while he waited. For years, I thought responsibility made me valuable. But now the power in the conversation wasn't money. It was the ability to choose. I'm sure the school has a financial office, I said calmly. They can explain the breakdown. My father exhaled sharply. I didn't say that, I replied. Another silence. Then, quietly, I'm not coming back. 2. The call ended without a goodbye. For a while I stood there in the quiet apartment. No shouting. No dramatic closure. Just the refrigerator humming. Later that night, my phone lit up again. My father's name on the screen. I let it ring. Not out of anger. Just because, for the first time in my life, answering wasn't something I owed anyone.